Well, good afternoon, everyone. As well as the Health and Social Care Minister, today I'm pleased to have with me the Minister for Infrastructure, Ray Harmer, and I look forward to his update. We have a lot to get through this afternoon, so without further ado, I would like to ask the Minister for Health and Social Care to cover today's numbers. David.
Thank you, Chief Minister. The total number of tests undertaken stands at 3,973. The total number of tests completed is 3,944. That means we are awaiting the return of 29 results. The total number of confirmed cases remains the same as yesterday at 332, meaning there has been no new cases identified today, and the total number of active cases now stands at 24. Thank you, Chief Minister.
And thank you very much, David. I would like to move on to the update from the Minister for Infrastructure. At this press conference, we've talked about the excellent work that the Department have done to support the Department of Health and Social Care to keep our island running and to shore up our critical national infrastructure. As we move into a new phase in dealing with the pandemic, the Department will be too. So without further ado, I'll now hand over to Ray. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The way we live and work is going through a period of change. We are adapting our daily lives and finding ways to manage by being creative while taking precautions against a life-threatening infection governing behaviour around the world. Simply going to work is out of bounds for many of us on the island, as the advice remains to work from home if you can. For key workers and those employed in sectors which have returned, such as construction, this adaptation is a case of putting in place methods to protect staff and finding ways to simply get things done. The work of the Department of Infrastructure has taken place on a range of fronts since the beginning of the crisis in mid-March and continues to flex to the needs of the community. The immediate focus, covered during my last appearance at a press briefing, was helping the hospital and creating capacity to ensure the island's health service were able to cope. Our work on this front is largely completed. The new oxygen storage facility is in place. Newlands Ward is converted and accommodating patients. Staff around the department were asked to take on new roles, and they rose to the occasion. This included helping to manage the repatriation process and the safe return of residents under extremely difficult conditions. Things are now gradually starting to move towards something more recognisable as people return to their usual roles. But this will continue to be a period of change while we move step by step from our current stay safe status. As a nation, we have been successful at getting the virus under some control, and we can see a pathway to improve the day-to-day living while staying safe. The opportunity to spend more time outdoors and for some return to work has renewed people's optimism and energy. It will be a long time before we return to normal, but we can now see the road ahead. For some time to come, we will have to keep adjusting to the changing circumstances and rising to the challenges. There will be opportunities in the months ahead, and this hiatus has given us all time to reflect on what is important. I'm delighted that from Saturday, pleasure craft will be allowed to take to the sea. I'm also delighted that the maintenance of Peel Marina has started, and the coming months will see the water depths increase, securing this wonderful facility for all. Vessels must be occupied only by members of the same household. If you do set sail from Manx shores, please notify the Marine Operations Centre by calling 686 628. The line is available 24 hours a day and applies to any type of vessel. including canoes, kayaks and paddleboards. Stay within the 3-mile limit and do not stay out for more than 4 hours. All sailings must take place during daylight. These criteria are in place to ensure people do not risk putting the emergency services under pressure. Bus services continue to meet the needs of the island, and rising passenger numbers mean a new timetable is in place from this week to accommodate social distancing requirements. Protecting drivers and passengers while supplying this crucial service is a core objective, and we will be working with colleagues in the Department of Education, Sport and Culture to deliver the most appropriate solution when students start to return to schools, something we are all looking forward to. The Douglas Promenade refurbishment scheme is back up and running and is working to revise schedule to have a works-free prom in time of the tourist season 2021. Construction work is being carried out on a greater scale, taking advantage of the fact that many promenade businesses are closed and traffic is light. Changes over the coming months may include the implementation of a one-way system and junctions being closed. The aim is to stop work before the summer season in March 2021. You will have already noticed that the site is busier than ever. Promenade hoteliers and businesses need a clear run at next year's tourist season, free of any disruption, to help them back on their feet. Traffic levels remain low around the island as many people continue to stay or work from home. This, together with the temporary all-island speed limit, has led to a more pleasant environment and safer roads. It has been a delight to see so many people cycling and walking. People have taken the opportunity to start walking and cycling to work, as well as for pleasure. So much so that cycle shops are reporting fantastic demand. As a society, we need these changes, and there is a reward which should be taken. We are actively considering ways to support those wishing to make smart decisions and travel actively. These thoughts include allocating more road space to walkers and cyclists. People are enjoying the 20-mile-an-hour limit on Douglas Promenade, and we are considering making it permanent in keeping with the social and enjoyable space we are creating. The Heritage Trail project has been able to restart and is providing commuters and families with a beautiful and safe route to walk and cycle. The success of this project, along with the old corridors, will be followed this year with work to reinstate and improve the St John's to Kirkmichael footpath, and in Ramsey to improve connectivity through the towns and to the schools. Our Highways division is busy on a number of fronts, and we will be actively looking at ways to accelerate maintenance and rehabilitation work. This will not only improve the highway network, but also support local businesses and the people they employ. Vehicle testing has resumed from this week, which will be good news for road safety, and it will support car sales when they resume. How can we enable driving tests to take place safely while observing social distancing does, however, remain a challenge. Motorcycle tests will be back online first, and we look forward to taking these things forward from there. Looking beyond our shores, the contractor building the Isle of Man ferry terminal in Liverpool never stopped working, as the UK government allowed construction to continue. However, social distancing requirements and supply chain issues have led to unforeseen setbacks which have been managed in a collaboration with the department. Our borders remain closed to help us stay safe. When we do decide to open them, how and when air services will resume remains to be seen, but the industry is likely to have changes for a long time to come. Isle of Man Airport continues to perform a vital role, however, in maintaining links for the patient transfer services and freight flights, including deliveries of PPE. I'd like to pay tribute to our local authorities for rising to the challenges posed by this difficult period and maintaining vital services under difficult circumstances. It is work like this that often gets overlooked, and I commend those on the front line that have continued to deliver. Our bins still get collected, our streets get cleaned, and housing needs, particularly for the vulnerable in sheltered accommodation, are met by dedicated colleagues. In closing, I'd like to thank the community for showing such fortitude in getting us into a strong position and enabling us to move forward with confidence. There is some way to go, but we are winning by working together. Stay safe.
And thank you very much, Ray. Just before I take you through this morning's meeting of the Council of Ministers, I would like to touch on some news that many of you will have seen this morning relating to antibody testing. Professor John Newton, National Coordinator of the UK Coronavirus Testing Programme, has described the test developed by Roche as a positive development, and its initial testing had a high level of accuracy. This is encouraging news after many previous projects from different companies have failed. Just to remind you, this is the test, in this case a blood test, that will be able to tell whether you have ever had COVID-19. We have often said that it would be a key tool in the management of the virus in our community. The United Kingdom are not yet able to confirm when it will be rolled out, but I can confirm two things to you today. First, that once final verification of accuracy of the test is formally received, we will benefit from that rollout as a full partner of the NHS supply chains. Second, I can confirm that we already have the ability, with some light changes, to start antibody testing once we have the product. So yes, there remains a number of unknowns, but it is a positive development. The Health and Social Care Minister and I will update you as we know more. The Council of Ministers has, as you know, been meeting regularly, and this morning we were briefed on the latest situation regarding active cases, capacity at the hospital, staffing, personnel protection equipment and other relevant information. And I'm pleased to report that the indicators remain strong. This is the result of hard work by so many people across the island. Thank you. We reviewed the current measures in place to see if we were ready to make changes, and I would like to take you through the outcomes. On gatherings, as promised, we took another look at this. It is an incredibly complex area that we need to get absolutely right. We have looked at the number of models to allow for families to see each other and for friends to gather. We are close to being able to make changes. You have shown us that you understand the importance of social distancing and the risks if we get this wrong. We also recognise that the current restrictions on gatherings impact on so many aspects of our island life. We know the emotional challenge we all suffer from not being able to see friends and family, and I feel that too. We know that it also impacts more widely on sports and recreation, but also on important moments like worship, weddings and funerals. We need to consider all of this, and we are doing so. The approach of the Council of Ministers is that if we want, as far as possible, as far as possible, to step out of your home and social lives and trust you to make the right decisions for your circumstances. We will, of course, provide you with the best guidance we can, but you are best placed to know the needs and vulnerabilities of you and your family. I do, however, need to ask you to be a little bit more patient on this. The Council of Ministers has asked for some further clarifications. We will go through this again at our meeting on Saturday, and I will make an announcement on Monday. Meanwhile, do remember that you can still pop round to see a family member or someone in your community who you might think might need support. Just please remember the rules. Keep your distance, don't go inside the house, only go alone or with one other person from your household, and deck chairs are not obligatory. Moving on to property. Earlier this week we published guidance for estate agents to allow them to visit homes with certain precautions in place. This morning the Council of Ministers considered whether to allow the resumption of property sales, lettings and viewings to support the property market resuming to a full extent. We agreed that these businesses will be allowed to resume their full operations, including viewings with effect from Monday the 18th of May. Public Health England has published guidance to the industry on this. Our public health team have reviewed this guidance and on this occasion have recommended that we align to it. The headlines of this are: initial viewings should be done virtually where this is possible. Physical viewings should be limited to as few people as possible and members of the same household. If possible, vendors should vacate the property whilst viewings are taking place. Anyone involved should of course practice social distancing and high levels of hygiene at all times. We will publish these guidelines on our website and have already shared them with industry representatives. Moving on to retail. Last week I told you that the Council of Ministers would look at the resumption of more of our retail sector. We duly did this today, and we agreed that where retail businesses were ready to do so, they could open from Monday the 18th of May. And we have already also published guidance to assist our retail businesses in ensuring that their premises are safe for customers and staff. Some businesses may judge that they are not yet ready to open. That is perfectly okay. This is an opportunity for them to open, not an obligation. Like so much relating to our work against COVID, we want our businesses to get this right, not rushed. A lot of work has taken place with local authorities and the retail sector to get this right. There may be teething problems at the start, but if as a community we continue to show patience and, most importantly, respect others and their personal space, we can make this work safely. There are some businesses that we are not yet ready to reopen, essentially those that would result in large numbers of people coming together, for example bars, clubs, cinemas, gyms, etc., or where there is proximity of people. Businesses that we often call lifestyle, so hairdressing, beauticians, etc. We will publish a comprehensive list later this evening. Moving on to schools. As announced by the Minister of Education, Sport and Culture in his briefing on Monday, with effect from Monday the 18th, children of workers in the construction, trades and horticultural sectors, those who we allow to return to work from the 24th of April, will be able to send their children to one of the existing hub facilities. And Dr. Allenson asked those people to contact their head teacher to discuss this so that they can better understand the numbers involved. And if you have not done so yet, please do so. Moving on to nurseries. The Council of Ministers considered the question of allowing an expansion of nursery provision. We fully understand that there is a pressure on this, especially from those who are returning to work. There was a lengthy debate, but we agreed that we were not quite ready yet to allow this. The issues around social distancing in a nursery environment is incredibly complex, and our clinicians want to see the data from the schools, especially in the increased take-up of places in primary school, before making a final determination. This work between our public health colleagues and the sector will continue, and we will review again on the 21st of May. I know this may be frustrating to many people, but we do want to get this right. Right for our children, for our nursery staff, for parents and for all of us, as we carefully balance a series of incremental changes being made on a measured basis. Moving on to sport. We have continued our process of bringing sports and recreation back online. This follows successful work with sporting associations and clubs to provide sensible and credible plans on how they will do that safely. This morning we were able to approve archery, target shooting, paddle sports, crown green and lawn bowls. Where possible, please check with your club or association to understand what arrangements you may need to follow. I know that there are other sports that want to resume. Some, of course, are more difficult than others. Some also depend on the rules relating to gathering. We know that the resumption of sport is important to people, and we will continue to work with sporting bodies to bring them back when it is safe to do so. I will now take questions, and first I have down here is Amanda Cashmore from Gef the Mongoose. Amanda.
Good afternoon, Chief Minister. My first question is either for yourself or Minister Ashford. But you mentioned the antibody tests approved in England. If and when these are rolled out on the island, can we expect shortages to the product? And what will the strategy be in distributing them? Will health workers be the first? That sort of thing.
Thank you. Well, I'll bring the Minister in for part of that. To my knowledge, it's a finger prick test, so it's not into the arm. We're not going to get every dose that we want straight away. I would imagine they will be rationed based on a capita basis, and it will be up to our health professionals to advise us on where they see the priority to do these tests. But I'll maybe let David come in and just give further clarification on that, Amanda. David.
Good afternoon, Amanda. Yes, in relation to the antibody test, we do need to clarify that the final verification is still to come, as the Chief Minister said in his opening remarks. As Professor Newson, who leads the task force in the UK, said around this morning, it's exceptionally positive and it seems to be going in the right direction, but we're still awaiting that very, very final verification around the accuracy and the ability to roll out. And once we have that, which is expected either next week or the week after, then we'll be able to do that. We're already geared up to be able to process antibody tests here on Ireland. In relation to the amount of tests, they are going to be rationed because obviously it's a brand new test, so as it's produced, then they'll ramp up production, but it's going to be they're going to be issued on a per head of population basis, so we will have a supply based on our population size. In terms of the testing strategy, we're looking at various options at the moment as to how we would want to roll that out, and when and if I should say, because it's still waiting the final verification, the test becomes available, I'll be able to talk to you more around what that testing strategy will be.
Thank you.
If I may just add, Amanda, there have been many false dawns on this antigen testing, but the mood music behind the scenes now really does seem to be that within a couple of weeks we would hope to have the testing drug to do this. So fingers crossed that we can move on with this. It will be really helpful. And your second question, Amanda?
It's for you, Chief Minister.
Okay.
People in the island's private sector have been furloughed after being hit by the economic aftershocks of this pandemic. Are there any further plans to make cuts to the public sector, whether via salary cuts, furloughing or anything like this? And can the government give some indication of how this is being managed?
Right, well, we analysed the number of people out of the government workforce, and 80% were still doing their day job. If you think about all the departments, the Department for Enterprise is flat out with 6 new schemes to operate. Health and social care, everyone in that area will be doing their job without any change. Home affairs, everyone will be doing their job without change. So I think when you look at 80%, we reckon 10%, about 1,000 staff have been moved to other areas to help out in the fight against the coronavirus. So we're down to a very small number of people who aren't actually having to do their day job. And if you then look at the percentage of people who will be off sick, etc., or maybe high risk, because obviously same for government workers as in the private sector, we're down to very, very, really low figures. You know, our government workforce really have shone in, if they don't have a job that can be done at this moment in time, going somewhere else to help government in the fight against this. But obviously this is something the Council of Ministers will look at. I know Treasury have asked all departments to look at how we are going to fund everything going forward. Obviously I came into politics 8.5 years ago. At the time it was to get the economy balanced and sort out public sector pension debt, and now I see we've got the economy balanced. We had all the latest figures to show in the next couple of years, even with the deficit in the pension contributions, the economy with the surplus that we were building up, we would balance it and we wouldn't be taking from reserves anymore. And you just get there and this comes along. But yes, we'll have to start from over again and look at how we are going to fund the amount of money that we've had to take out of our reserves to keep the economy going and keep people furloughed, etc. But it's a very complex issue, and I think the next year and the next administration will have this for some considerable time to look into, Amanda.
So there's no plans for the immediate future to make those changes?
Not for the, well, because we've got the vast majority of staff either working in their normal job or elsewhere, then there's no change there, but not in the immediate term, but we will have to review, and that's what all departments will do. But to be fair, most ministers and their officers and their teams are working absolutely flat out in the coronavirus. I think you fight on too many fronts, you get beaten. Of course, Treasury, DfE will be looking at this. They will be coming up with recommendations, especially in Treasury. And when we have something, we'll let you know. But at this moment in time, we don't have anything to give you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, we move on to Ewan Gorn at Manx Radio. Ewan.
That's my Chief Minister. I'd just like to ask you, many will be disappointed to hear that there have been no change to the rules on gatherings, although government has advanced things such as pleasure craft and changes to rules on estate agents. So I'd just like to ask you, when are we likely to see changes to the rules on gatherings?
I announced in the speech Monday, Ewan.
On Monday?
Yeah.
And how high a priority is that for the Council of Ministers?
Well, it's a very high priority because I'm regularly getting letters, emails, texts, Facebook, you name it, from members of the public. And I think people going to see a member of the family in the garden went down well, but I'm still getting messages from people who would like to see maybe a loved one in another house. Or technically you can go and see that loved one, you just can't go in the house, and only you and another from the same household can go and visit that person. But we are keen to broaden that out. A number of countries are making slow changes from 0 to 2. We're already at the 2 side of things, but we do feel that hopefully on Monday we will be able to make an announcement on that. But you've then got to change lots of little all the emergency laws. We have all got to be changed, so it's not something you can quickly flick a switch on, and you've got to make sure that you've followed all the ripples of the consequences of doing that. So hopefully Monday, Ewan. And your second question.
Can you give us any indication of the nature of the sort of system you're working up for Monday, or we're going to have to wait till then?
Well, you're looking at the number of gatherings, people that can gather, and there is some work obviously going on the bubble approach, but we have to be very careful. We've made a number of changes now to allow sports, to allow more businesses, all our retail shops, with the exception of ones where social gathering in big numbers would happen, and that advice will be on our website tonight. So we've made some significant changes where quite a few 100,000 or so will be able to get back to work. We just need to be careful. I've always said this is all about making small steps at a time. Look at the data, and then if nothing's gone wrong, and we saw today no cases, the last few days we've had one a day, then, and the capacity at the hospital, and then we can make further changes. And it's something that we're keen to do, but what we don't want to do is rush it and then see a spike, and then you've got to pull back from everything that you've done, and that would cause more harm to people, having something taken away from them, and it would delay the expansion of the economy, which is what we're trying to do. So small steps, get it right, don't have to go back all the time. That to me is the best way forward, rather than taking a massive gamble and just doing everything at once. So Monday, it's not too far away. Today's Thursday. Hopefully we can have some more information on that.
Thank you. And for my second question, can I please speak to the Infrastructure Minister?
Yeah, no problems. Ray.
Thank you, Ewan.
Pass to my Minister. I'd just like to ask you, with regards to the Promenade redevelopment scheme, with a general election due next year, can you guarantee the entire horse tramway, as agreed by Tynwald in 2017, will be completed on this promenade?
Right, so let's take a step back. The most important thing with the coronavirus, that's one of the issues that's happened, is that businesses need to get back up and running. And what was absolutely clear to us is that from after next March 2021, we need to be up and away, gone, and works free from the promenade, so that we're not impacting. So what that means is we're delaying the section on the horse trams, which is from on Lock Promenade. That will not take place before March 2021, and that will have to happen at a later date.
Do you foresee that that's going to be a decision that another Tynwald will have to make as to whether that will be completed, or would you like to see it finished?
I would like to see it finished, and Tynwald has already made a decision on that, so that hasn't changed. If anything changes, then you would have to go to Tynwald, but Tynwald's already made a decision.
But there may be a new Tynwald in place by that point, is what I'm trying to suggest to you.
There will be a new Tynwald in place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can just stress the point on this, it's really important that we help those businesses on the promenade get back on their feet. They've been shut down now, they've had problems for a while. Now with the coronavirus, there's no business for the hotels, the shops are doing on, there's no tourism there for the shops. So it really is important that we do everything we can to help them have a clean, uninterrupted run from Easter for all of, for the rest of that season. And I'm personally committed. I am one of the politicians that voted in favour of the horse trams going the full length. And I give a commitment that we're not saying no to it. We'll just really focus on helping those businesses who are really struggling in that area. But the minute that season is over, I hope, who knows where we'll all be as politicians, but I hope the plan is there. It doesn't need another administration to give it the green light. They can go ahead in, say, from October and spend the winter doing that strip on the far side of the promenade. It won't affect the hotels and businesses so much. Everything else, all the infrastructure will be in place. It should be able to be done comfortably during that winter. It's really just trying to be thoughtful and helpful to those people whose livelihoods have been really hammered, and we're doing our best to look after them, Ewan, on that one. So next we move on to is Leanne Cook from 3FM. Leanne, nice to see you again.
Good afternoon, Chief Minister. Both of my questions are for the Infrastructure Minister, please.
Okay, we've got really bad reception there, so I get that you want to speak to the Minister of Infrastructure, but I hope your connection has improved. Ray.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, hopefully my connection stays put. So my first question, I know as previous ministers have reiterated, you can't confirm or discuss timelines, but can you indicate what factors will influence your decision to remove the all-island 40 mile per hour speed limit?
I think that's a question that's already been talked about in terms of the road safety partnership. It's already something that is being considered. But in terms of what we have at the moment, I would suggest there's been some positive benefits. We've seen a lot of more people walking and cycling, and we've seen some positive benefits. Also, it's key that we don't. We have seen a massive reduction in accidents, and obviously at the moment the hospitals are still stretched, so obviously these things are always under review.
Okay, and my second question, with more businesses opening from Monday, there could be more demand on public transport. Will there be further measures in place to enforce social distancing and prevent overcrowding?
Yes, there will be, and what we do know is actually with the levels coming back, we've seen more people as well, not just using the buses, but also walking and cycling, and we want to encourage that as well. Could you give any more details as to what these extra measures will be? Well, these measures already this week we've seen an increase in the timetable, so as demand grows, we will see and continue to see more buses. That will help with social distancing, and obviously there'll be improved guidance as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Leanne. We now move on to Simon Richardson from Business 365. Simon, good afternoon. First am I.
Good afternoon, Chief Minister. My first question is for you, if I may.
Yeah.
We've seen China reintroducing lockdown in cities, including Wuhan, after new clusters of COVID-19. Now, given the scale of their actions to eradicate the virus to date, has this made you even more cautious about our planned relaxation strategy?
I suppose I look at I always say Manx situation, Manx solutions. I've always said from day one, Simon, making a decision, little steps, instead of making taking big steps, little steps, look at the data, and then move forward. So yeah, and that's always been with the view that there have been reinfections in certain countries. I know my own daughter currently lives in Hong Kong, and they opened the borders again once they had it under control, and saw a leap in cases for reinfection from mainland China. So yeah, it's out there, and you've got to make sure that you don't want that a double bounce where you get a reinfection. We've worked so hard, the public have given so much time and commitment to totally flatten the curve down to where we are now, that it would be a terrible situation where we just release too much at once and then see a spike, and we've got to claw back some of the freedoms that we've been able to give people. And I don't want to be in the position where I'm having to I had to shut down everything at one stage, and as soon as that we can get back to getting people, giving their normality to their lives, the better. But yeah, I always worry about getting it back, and we've got to be so careful. And I think that's why, as unpopular as the decision to shut the border proved to be with those people that were trapped off the island, it really has helped the island avoid the increase in numbers. Your second question, Simon?
Thank you. My second question, it's for Mr. Harmer, please, if I can.
Right.
Thank you, Simon. Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Harmer. Now, the promenade scheme, if I could just return to that. Earlier in the programme, it encountered cracking in the new pink concrete, which is used to house the tram lines. Has that problem now been solved? And are you confident that there won't be serious issues in the future?
Thank you. In terms of the cracking, we're still monitoring it with the original cracking, and we're dealing with that. But in terms of the processes and the procedures have been updated, as well as also the introduction of different. It's quite a lot of technical detail, but going forward, yes, we're confident.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. We now move on to Paul Moulton from MTTV. Paul.
Thank you, Chief. The first question is for the Health Minister. The second one is for infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, David.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Hello there. Obviously, you heard the news that, and I believe this is fact. I've got it from a source that a resident that was at Abbotswood nursing home who was moved yesterday has passed away, not from the virus. But do you think this was avoidable? And what negotiations did the department have to make sure there was continuity of care for this person?
The first thing I need to say is, if it's the case, I believe I've been informed about, the person was unfortunately an end-of-life patient. That doesn't make it any better, but they were end of life, and obviously I want to express my condolences to their family. We did communicate with the family, we did what we could. As I've said in previous occasions, the ideal solution would have been for people to be able to remain at Abbotswood because it was their home. That solution wasn't available, but we have no indication at all that the move caused anything that would not have happened in any case. But obviously that does not make the situation any better, and I do express my condolences to the family in that regard.
Okay, thank you. And for Mr. Harmer, please, then.
Afternoon, Paul.
Tom, you know how popular our prom watch things are, so I had to ask you a question about the promenade. The walkway and the parking, it opened, then it closed. Now the shops are definitely opening, and obviously everyone's saying they need support, but you do have a conflict there. Lots of people are using it now for their exercise. Have you made a decision? Is it to stay open or is it to stay closed?
At the moment, we're keeping monitoring on it. I think having seen all the people that are walking and cycling, and we want to encourage that and keep that going, we're going to keep monitoring the car parks, and only when the car parks are full and there's that demand, then we'll look at the walkway. But I think this is an opportunity to reflect. I think there's been a lot of positivity about the walkway, of how it's been used, and really I would see that as one of the latter things that we do.
You don't mind me saying that everything seems to be maybes and this, and you said there might be a one-way system, there might be this. Is there any actual hard and fast plan, or is everything just down to let's have a look at it this week and see what's happening?
No, there's some definite plans, and there will be plans regarding such things as the one way. Absolutely, definitely. If what I'm saying to you is that my preference would be not to reopen the walkway to parking, but we will monitor it to see how the traffic levels are. At the moment, traffic levels are about 50% of what they were, so we will have to monitor that and see how those traffic levels change and what the demand is. It will be very much based on that.
Yeah, I understand you. I mean, whatever you do is going to be not upsetting somebody, but obviously the shops reopening is back to where we were before this all started, really, isn't it?
Well, there's a number of things that change. People's lives have changed. People are working more from home, and we have to take those factors into account. And as I said before, traffic was down by 70%. At the moment, it's about 50% of what it was.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. If I can point out that pubs, clubs, restaurants are still shut, so the volume of traffic of people using those facilities and betting shops, etc., they are not opening at this moment in time. So we still are seeing a reduction in travel from the peak it was before this awful virus hit the island. So just thought I'd clarify that point. Next, we've got Josh Stokes from ITV. Faster, Mike.
Thanks, Chief Minister. One for you and then one for the Health Minister, if I may. But firstly, for you, I just wanted to address the phases and the sectors returning to work. We see tourism and hospitality is due to open up a fair amount of time before the borders presumably will. Guernsey have previously spoken about trying to encourage UK holidaymakers back as soon as possible to boost their economy. So my question is, could the Isle of Man have a real opportunity to boost its tourism, a lot of which has already been lost this year, and potentially save businesses if there is a slight loosening of the borders when hospitality and tourism starts up again? And is that something that is being considered?
It's not being considered at the moment on the Isle of Man. The infection rate from the UK is just too high to even think about that. As I've said, we'll look at it nearer the time, but I'm afraid personally I cannot see that happening for some considerable time. We're obviously wanting to open up the hotels and the restaurants and tourist facilities, but I think it'll be local tourists for some considerable time yet. But let's never say never. If there's a miraculous turnaround in the UK figures, or some of the other countries that in our adjacent isles, such as Ireland, see a major improvement, then it can be looked at. But I know Jersey, Guernsey have a much bigger tourism sector than ourselves. We've got a more diversified portfolio than they have, and obviously, if they're prepared to take the gamble of allowing people from outside in to go on holiday, that's their decision. I'm here to look after the people of the Isle of Man and make Manx decisions for Manx problems. So, but you never say never. It's really fluid. This I'm never saying no to anything. We look at the data, we look at the evidence, and if it all gives us the green light, then we're more than happy to allow things to happen. And the raft of announcements we've announced today, and hopefully more on Monday, should hopefully show that and reassure people, but equally people should be reassured that we don't rush in and that we do it sensibly, because we do not want this double bounce of seeing a spike and a new number of cases because we've opened up too soon. And your next question was to the Health Minister, was it, Josh?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, David.
Good afternoon, Josh.
Afternoon, Minister. Just to clarify what I asked yesterday, really, the number of Abbotswood residents who are active cases and the number of residents who are presumed recovered, were the figures you gave yesterday correct? Because I know you weren't completely sure.
Yeah, we were having them validated, because the ones that have been in Newlands, we actually have just been recording still under hospital admissions, but obviously quite a lot of them have gone back through their recovery period now. So I said we were doing the balancing yesterday. That has been done. So of the 12 that were in Newlands, 10 are now classified as recovered. There is only 2 that are still classified as COVID positive. So in total, that brings the total recovery rate at Abbotswood, including those who recovered in the home, to 17.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Josh. We now move on to Chris Kay from Energy FM. Chris.
Good afternoon, Chief Minister. In regards to the announcement on gatherings, will the government also be altering the severity of fines issued for people breaking the rules in line with this to act as a deterrent, as it will surely be much harder to police when people from different households are allowed to interact more and more?
Absolutely not. We will not be reducing the fines or the severity. We are trusting, and let's be blunt here, the 99% of the population virtually have done this exceptionally well. They've been responsible, sensible, they've helped us flatten the curve. But sadly, in all society, you always get people who think they're a law unto themselves and are prepared to put the risk of their neighbour, their loved ones at risk so that they can do what they want. And I'm not prepared to go easy on those people. If they choose to break the law to potentially pass an infection on to a vulnerable person, then I'm not here to allow that to happen. So the standards will be there. If people abuse it, they will get punished. But, that is a very small minority in our society. There's 85,000 people on the island. And if you look at the number of cases of people going to court, etc., we're in the 30, 40s. So it's a very small number of people who are irresponsible. But if they think they can continue to get away with it or others, then they're wrong. But obviously we will be working with the police and a number of areas when we, if we make these announcements on Monday. And that's why it's so complex that you can't just click the switch and turn it back on. You've really got to get this right. And with all the announcements we've made today, it was felt that we were better off waiting to Monday to see how get over the chunk of changes that we've done today and over the weekend, and then review on Monday. And that's what we're going to be doing, Chris.
What are the police saying to you in regards to the relaxation of the gathering laws and how to police that?
Well, that's confidential information at this moment. I'll be announcing that on Monday, Chris. But obviously, the Minister for Home Affairs sits in all our Council of Ministers meetings, and the Gold committee of our officers that discuss all the key salient points. The Chief Constable has access into gold and silver to give his views, and obviously we work with a number of people. It's not just our medics, it's our public health, if we need infrastructure, if it's the police. All these issues are taken into account so that we get all the data from different sources, and then the Council of Ministers gets all that evidence, we make a decision, and this morning we made a number of key decisions, and here I am today giving you as much information as I can on those changes. So let's wait till Monday and see what's been decided. I think that's.
And a question for Mr. Harmer, please.
Okay, right.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Harmer.
Chris.
I'm just curious about the morale of those working on infrastructure projects at the moment, just to maybe address some of those fears from other industries who may be hesitant about returning to work.
It's very, very good. I think what we've seen across since the pandemic started and since it's impacted the Isle of Man, a number of people have had to change roles, and we've had very high levels of the workforce actually working. So, for example, in the Newlands facility, in the oxygen plant, people have all had to do different things. And yes, I think a lot of people, obviously there's always can be nervousness, but actually a lot of people are just really grateful to be getting back and getting things done.
Because we did see those who were voicing their discontent on social media about having to go back if they were in those related industries. Have you had examples of people speaking to you saying it's not as bad as they thought it would be?
Yes, because it at the end of the day, all construction work and infrastructure work and highways work involves health and safety procedures, and with which they're very familiar with. And I think you're now seeing a lot of work happen, a lot of more work on the prom, and I think it's actually going very, very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move on, I gave an example of, I think it was to Paul, the volumes of traffic on the promenade and businesses that wouldn't be opening. And I mentioned pubs, clubs, restaurants. That was totally true. They will not be operating. I think I might have fraudulently slipped in betting shops. Betting shops can open as long as they follow all the social distancing and hand hygiene for their staff, etc., and for their customers. So my apologies in throwing that one open. They are off the list on Monday as long as they follow the rules. Right, I move on to Alex Bell from BBC. Alex.
Good afternoon. For the Infrastructure Minister, please.
Okay, Ray.
Afternoon, Alex.
Afternoon, Mr. Harmer. You mentioned that traffic is down by 50%. Does this present, in effect, a perfect opportunity for the DOI to actually progress at a greater speed with some of its projects, so to perhaps even close the promenade, consolidate the workforce down there and get the job done ahead of time?
Yes, so in effect, that's what we're doing. So you'll be seeing very shortly plans come out for one ways. That's I highlighted that in my speech, and to actually get the work done. In effect, what we're doing is cutting about 9 months, 8 to 9 months off the project to get it done by March 2021. So yes, you will see that, and you'll see that increasing because we are very, very keen to use local workforce, accelerate capital spend, and really to kickstart the economy. So absolutely.
So will you be bringing workforce, this ties in, will you be bringing some workers in from the UK under special dispensations?
There are some workers, some specialisms, for example, the coronation of testing of water that there isn't that expertise on the island, so we have to bring it across. Thermic welders, for example, but where possible we're trying to actually employ local as much as possible and re-energise the local workforce.
Thank you. And just, I guess, on a similar infrastructure tangent, in hindsight, I suppose yourself and many others will be thankful that the Manx government secured the steam packet all those years ago, because that's come in handy now, hasn't it? Should this be an opportunity for the DOI to really think about securing air routes for the future? Because we will have to fight for them, won't we, once air travel returns to some semblance of normality?
We're already, thank you, Alex. We're already in those sort of discussions already. We have obviously a very good partner at the moment providing our patient transfer, and we're reasonably confident that we'll be able to take that forward. So yes, we're very conscious about having being able to use a strategic partner for those really vital links we have, and we've got to start the work now, and that's absolutely what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ray. And last but not least, Sam Turton from Alaman Newspapers. Sam, faster Mai.
Faster Mai, Chief Minister. Mr. Harmer as well, please.
Okie coke. Ray, you're back on.
Afternoon, Sam.
Afternoon, Mr. Harmer. Could I just check on when were we up with Liverpool? Sorry, there. To be honest with you, my audio dropped out a little bit. So could I just check on what it was you said about Liverpool landing stage?
Yeah, so the ferry terminal in Liverpool, that never stopped. So that work, the UK construction industry never stopped, unlike here. However, and this really pertains to the promenade and all the other works we're doing, there are new social distancing rules. That actually makes construction a lot more complicated, a lot harder, and therefore we are working with the contractors to see how we can mitigate some of that. So it never stopped. We're still carrying on with it, but we are aware of if you like, there are issues and problems, but we're looking at that at the moment.
And will that affect the delivery date on that at all?
We hope not, but it could do. Yes.
Thank you. And then on the promenade scheme, we haven't yet seen the plans come out for this, but as we understand, the horse trams has been changes there. Roundabouts come up in Timworth. What else has changed on the promenade, and when can we expect to see these changes actually in a document that we can all digest?
So you'll see that over the next few days and weeks. In essence, you've highlighted the two main, if you like, temporary changes that we've had to make, but everything else is effectively around a one-way system for the promenade, as you mentioned, the tram track and also the roundels. But everything else is substantially the same. So, for example, the cultural quarter, which is a really important area where people can gather, that's all staying exactly the same. Most of the work and services. So what we've done is we've tried to compact it, and we try to use as much as possible, as mentioned by Alex, to actually use the fact that we can perhaps close parts of the junctions and also make a one-way system.
Thank you. And just finally, in terms of capital schemes, will you as a department be looking to bring forward capital schemes that perhaps have been scheduled for later in the year or maybe even next year, in a way of both supporting the building industry but also taking advantage of the opportunities that will be there to crack on with some of these schemes, and if so, which ones are being considered?
So you're absolutely right. We're in discussion with Treasury at the moment. I don't have that final list, but very much where we can seize local work and maximise the local economy. That's absolutely vital. Though one of those that I mentioned earlier that was planned for this year, which is the St John's to Kirkmichael route, that can use a lot of local labour. So that is one of the ones that we're looking to push. But there's a number of building projects as well. For example, if we can with Castle Rushen or Stem Block in QE2, those kind of things that we can assist with. So we're very much conscious of that. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much, everyone. If we move on, this has been a long briefing, so just one shout out this evening, and that's to you, the great Manx public. I just want to give a big shout out to you all. You've got us to where we are, and as I look around the world at what is going on, I know, and I hope you agree, that there is nowhere I would rather be right now. As we move forward into this new phase, we need you to keep up the good work, keep your distance, keep supporting each other, keep making the right decisions for you, for your loved ones, for our island. I won't be on tomorrow, so have a good and safe weekend. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for staying at home where possible.
We hope you're staying positive in these challenging times.
We've come so far.
As we move forward into the next stage,
please continue to stay at home whenever possible.
And we will continue to keep you safe.
Make sensible choices.
Your actions are vital.
Please play your part.
For you, for our island and for our community.
Please stay home where possible.
For you, our island and our community.
Please stay home where possible.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.